All right, that's what I want.
All right.
Ross is throwing us a little Lori.
If you pick on her, she'll come down. Right, Jim?
Pardon me?
So Rhonda's in her office watching.
Yeah. Probably.
Probably.
I already stopped and commented, so they don't let you leave the building, but you can't come into the room.
That one where I get the,
So you need to download it.
yeah, and it comes up here, then I click this,
Learning some new skills.
and then.
What's that?
Learning some new skills these days.
Yeah.
You can just say open.
Get old for that.
So you're proving the old thing on.
And then it goes to.
It's the retention.
Yeah,
Have
so
you noticed the
that's the
retention?
thumbnails,
the
the
I
bookmarks
started
are here.
reading the planning section of the municipal.
Yeah, but not when it.
That was fun.
Fell
Well,
asleep.
He fell asleep.
It's a more exciting contract.
What's that?
Am I in the right thing?
See, when I go back to the original thing.
No, because
Oh, I-
that's just.
Did you get in? You got it.
I
must be. I'm on the same
page as you
are. I happen to have a 5 license version of Microsoft Office, so I just downloaded my license because
So
it's
how come
ridiculous.
he can't pull the, how come he doesn't have the bookmarks?
Born to
Do
wear.
something.
Is it because of the outlook or the program he has?
One or two
It
applications.
seems like it's all just online.
Yeah, but I
Just
just
put it
did
on
everything.
application.
I had to, I downloaded my license
Because
version so I can actually have everything. No, you
There's
should
one
still
here.
have the bookmarks. I can get those back.
You
Then
send the
what's it
first one,
doing?
they get the full one, just call
Well,
them, come
okay.
in and.
It tells you where and.
Yeah, see, the other way, it just.
Yeah, it's nice being not going
I
anywhere.
guess
It's
so
the
much
one
easier.
Yeah.
But for some reason,
Like, I just, so what you need to follow wherever there, right, or whatever, no.
for some reason, I thought there was a
Once you get
little.
it.
Because
Yeah,
they
thing there
involved
you
in
thought me
that.
to click on and I couldn't do it. I
Right.
clicked on everything.
I'm gonna try.
He's click happy.
There's a few times.
I do
that too.
This way, you're gonna, once you see it, you're gonna click download.
It's all the same courses. Every single course. That do.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
That side of it.
Are you hiding that behind the
Is it
book?
done? No, it's not done
Yeah,
yet. Once
just
it's
the
done,
stuff is-
don't click it till it's done. Now it's
It's
done.
done under
Okay.
seat.
Can you hear us, Counselor Warwick?
Seat goes down, sir.
You're muted.
You're muted.
That's probably a good thing, right?
Well, we're not very good at reading lips, so.
Don't answer that, Danny.
And then see it.
The bookmark.
Copy off.
That was quick.
It's
Maneuver.
actually-
Set the book up in front of his camera so we could see what you're
You
doing.
know what?
Contents.
It's a 1 year.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Click
work,
on the
then I'll be
contents.
home. Come back and see.
Oh, there you go.
There you
So
go.
then if you just want to scroll to each one of the items. you
Oh,
just
holding
click
on
on
to
it, you won't- Instead of
Not that we're
scrolling, you
motion
click
to
there,
your
you
job.
want to scroll as much.
Yeah, except you don't have to worry about anything else. It's
Yeah.
all right in front of you.
Are we ready?
Okay.
I believe so, Lori.
I'm sure.
We're good? Call to order. Just 6:02. Everyone's had a chance to look through the agenda, I'm hoping. Councilor Campion accepts, makes a motion to adopt the agenda. All in favor? Carried. Accounts payable. Or delegation, sorry.
Delegation.
I got it. That'd be you, Mr. Mole?
No,
No, no
we have
delegation.
no delegations this evening.
That's what I thought. Adoption of the minutes is presented.
Just one thing, Mr. Mayor, the public presentation. I know there's nobody here for public presentation, but if somebody was here in the gallery that wanted to speak, that time is there for them to speak, but no one's here, but at least we should ask if anybody's here, so
Okay, well,
you can tell.
I can tell there's nobody here. Dave, would you like to speak as a public?
Nope, I'll pass that, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. Motion to adopt the minutes as presented. Also Cole, all in favor? Carried. Everyone had a chance to take a look through the accounts payables.
We put the
Mr.
motion
Mayor,
first, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Councilor Warwick? Councilor
I just
Warwick?
have some questions regarding, yes, I have some questions in regards to the accounts payables in the check listing. I noticed that there was quite an extensive list of phone expenses, cell phone expenses. And I'm just wondering, do we not have phone lines in the town of Hanna's office?
I'm not sure, Councillor Warwick.
Can you hear
what
me?
your-
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you looking for, Ed?
There are a number of, there are,
Well, I'm losing you here.
We can hear you fine. Go ahead, Ange. Councilor Warwick.
Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Neal, I thought you were talking. I just kind of triggered my attention to the cost incurred with cell phone expenses within the office, and wondering if all our town of office staff members own or operate a cell phone that's expensed out to us or to the town of Hanna. I guess I'm just wondering how necessary that is. And I guess the question is there phone lines in the office that we can use? Or are we strictly using cell phones in the town office with our staff?
okay, Councillor Warwick, yes, there are landlines in the town office, and not everyone in the office has a cell phone allowance. There are people in the office administratively who have phone allowances because they are reached in the evening after hours, and they use that phone. And our public works staff and park staff are all take turns on call, and we use their phones. So there is, we do have a policy. Directors get compensated $65 a month for their phone, and some staff will get compensated $20 a month for their phone because it doesn't get used as much. So there's kind of a range in between them, and we pay them quarterly. So, and then a fire chief gets, as part of his contract, a phone allowance. So that would have been we pay that one once a year. The other staff we pay quarterly, but directors are $65 a month. Foremen are $60 a month, and operators or other staff are $20 a month.
Okay. And I can understand the public works, they're afield and being contacted. I just had some concern about how often those phones from our staff in the office, how often we have to use or access them by cell phone.
Most of our directors have their cell phones on their emails and take calls all the time, evenings and weekends. We have on our on-call number staff who will give their on-call number out, and even Rhonda did in the past. If you were unable to reach anyone, had her phone number there as well. So we give those numbers out frequently so that we can be reached, especially in the evening or weekends, especially if there's an emergency of some sort or somebody needs some information, so that we're available and can answer the call.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Neal.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We've got a couple, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Just brought a couple questions forward. So 042012, the MARD program, is that the medically at risk
Yes,
driver, is that,
medically at risk
Okay.
driver.
so that moving forward? That's not part of the public transportation goal.
Part and parcel,
Okay.
Counselor Olson, so we did get a grant for $15,000 through the medically at risk driver. So we did retain Kim Barth to do some background work and research, so the payment under that you will see came from that grant. And we will, when we get into the report, so talk a little bit more about the driving public transportation process that we're working through, so.
The other one for home hardware, see there's an amp on there. Are we finally moving forward with some arena upgrades?
Yes,
Okay, awesome.
so we've had it in capital for a number of years.
Five.
I know Director Snell sat down with Sean Watts and Chris Warwick, and they put together a plan, and we had some dollars remaining in our operating budget. So we made the decision to order all the equipment and everything, so it's good to go, and Sean will be installing those, and hopefully we'll have the system working top notch, so.
Awesome. I was just excited to see that.
Yeah,
moving.
we had some dollars there, and Chris was very good from the perspective that he said if we wanted to pay it out over a couple of years, we could, but I said, well, we appear to have some dollars left in 2021, so let's clear it out and get it all covered, so.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's the sound system in the arena.
That's all I have.
Question on 00768, who is Canoe Procurement Group? I've never seen that one on.
So you've probably seen it before. Canoe Procurement is basically the group that used to be AMD&C. It's a buying group which switched into RMA. Now they use Canoe as their procurement group. So we buy stuff that we used to buy through AMD&C, then RMA, now it's Canoe. So they have the large aggregation for purchasing products.
Okay, I think that was all.
Any other? Hearing none, can we get a vote, please, all in favor? Carried.
Any motion?
Did we have a motion?
I thought Mr. Camper made the motion. Sorry, can I get a motion first?
I can give you that motion.
Okay, Council Olson makes motion, the council accept the payables listed for general account check number 420082420046 and direct payments from 00729 to 00799. All in favor? Carried. That's good. Statement of revenue and expense. Motion, council accept the statement of revenue and expense report from December 2021 for information. Council Campion. Discussion.
So, Mr. Mayor, just as we get close to the end of the year, and this statement of revenue is for December 2021. It's close, but it's certainly not finalized. We'll still have bills that will be coming in that will be expensed to 2021. And internally, we've got some places where we need to move some benefits around from place to place, because in some areas the benefits get loaded in one and have to be reallocated out. So there is a little bit of work to do there, and then there's work to do on some transfers to reserves and stuff like that. But it's getting close to the final. But if you look at it, we're not at the final at this point in time.
Okay, any questions? Council Olson?
On page 2, the streets and roads, 665 grand, looks like that didn't come in.
Yeah, that's our MSI grant, and I think the province is wanting to hang on to their dollars longer than they normally did. So because we didn't do any projects in 2021, they said, well, we're not giving your money in advance in 2021. So previous years, they were more upfront and got the money out, but I think they're hanging on to it as long as they can.
I'm
So
sure they'll award us the interest.
the interest hopefully will be offsetting the deficit. So
Okay, that was it.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Budget overview. Recommend a motion the council accepts a budget overview for December 2021 for information. Discussion.
Somebody give you the motion?
Yeah. Sorry, motion, Councilor Olson.
Sure.
Discussion.
It's not picking up your voice.
If it doesn't pick up, it's gonna be really bad.
You're very quiet.
So discussion. Council also made the motion.
I have a question.
Councilor,
Well, I'm just looking at the numbers as far as 337, I guess $369,000 in parks. That includes more than just maintaining the parks. It's all the ditches and like mowing and equipment and things of that nature, is that right?
yeah, and it would include, as you see, it includes Pioneer Park, Memorial Park, Wingfoot Park, playgrounds, all that. The only thing that it doesn't include that's basically outside work would be the ball diamonds and soccer fields.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems fairly high compared to some of the others as far as parks, 225.
But it's higher, but again, if you look at the detail, there'll be some bunch of benefits that'll have to
Okay.
be reallocated
That's
out.
okay. That falls in that
Been
category.
there spray park.
Okay, thank you.
Like it's on a separate little
Yeah,
line
they
with a
say
little
that
number.
as soon as it's in there.
yes, the spray park is in there. Oh, there's a $50 bill. All in favor? Agenda item 6.04, recommended motion, the council accepts the fourth quarter capital budget update, December 21st for information. Motion, Councilor Murphy.
So, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of things. As you see, most things are complete. If they're not complete, as we talk through the budgets, we're going to carry forward into 2022, whether they were grant dependent or not. So there is a few things that we are carrying forward to 2022. So those dollars will be transferred into reserve and then pulled out as we discussed during the budget to get them accomplished in 2022.
Any other questions or concerns?
That's a silly question.
No silly
Silly
questions.
questions.
They still use pagers in 2022?
I'll let you speak to the fire chief. He can answer your question. Good question, good time.
Yes, we do. We did take a look at the last officers meeting, whether or not going with an online version that we use already on our cell phones would be adequate. But we found there's still quite a few relying on pagers, me being one of them.
Okay.
Our current Minute 5s are no longer serviceable by Motorola. So we have no choice but to start buying replacements. I suspect this is probably going to be the last round of pagers. I think they are on their way out. Although the new Alberta First Responder radio system that the province put in a number of years ago did just come out with pagers through it. It's called AFRAX. So hard to say where technology is gonna take us, but
It's staying away from, it can't always be cell service in case the cell service goes down. I get that. That's why I was curious when I saw
as
it.
the CEO will tell you, I am into redundancy when it comes to communications.
You're OG, it's okay. It's all right.
Redundancy?
Yes,
And, but aren't there some areas where there just is no service period, regardless, you don't lose it, you just don't have it at all in
That's-
our area, so pagers is more of a, reliable connection than cell service.
the thing about our pagers is they're proprietary, so it's our system.
Mhm.
We're not using Telus' system or anybody else. It's the pages are generated out of the fire hall communications room, out through our own tower, which they've been that way for over 30 years since I joined. We've updated that system several times since then, but yeah, that's why we still like that system.
Mhm.
They also are little radio monitors. So if there was a call going on right now, it could actually monitor the radio traffic in town on the pager if I wasn't able to go to the call. So if somebody's at work and they just can't go, they can kind of listen in to what's going on the call, and if they can tell things are getting bad and more help's needed, they can make that decision whether to lock their business door and go attend the call. So there's some pluses to it, but some guys have migrated more away. I know my deputy chief over there, he doesn't need his page near as much as I rely on mine. The phone app, because he lives a little ways out of town, also the phone app's more reliable for him than the page. It has been for the first time ever talked about whether or not it
That's
continues,
interesting.
so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that. Any more discussion? All in favor? Council Warwick? Carried. Committee reports. Recommend the council accept senior administrative, official reports.
No, Mr.
No.
Mayor,
Sorry,
committee report.
Community services.
sorry, I was doing so well. Community service, Councilor Campbell, I'm thinking that's you.
Well, I just sent the thing into you, yeah. I turned it in. You have to have a motion to accept it.
Motion to accept Councilor Campbell's report is presented. Councilor Campbell makes motion, discussion. Boy, that was easy. All in favor? Carried. Senior administrative officials reports.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll start.
Okay.
Just want to go through a couple things in my report. So as I think I informally mentioned to most of council prior, when they walked in this evening, the Seymour is scheduled for demolition tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. So sure there'll be people out watching it, but this is one that all the hazardous material is removed. So as many people who want to watch it come down, the better. So it's scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9. Bylaw enforcement, I did hope to have the bylaw enforcement agreement with special areas here this evening, but got caught up with some people away on holidays in special areas, didn't have a chance to review it. So the plan is definitely, we will have it here for council approval the next meeting. In the interim, we're monitoring, and I know our public works staff were out today and put some snow removal tags on some sidewalks today. So we did give people the benefit of the doubt over the holidays with the -30. Now the temperature's warm, so they're out putting some reminder notices on doors. So hopefully that will get probably about 5% of people who haven't done the work to do the work, so, but even 5% is probably 50 properties, so.
Doesn't seem like not much of a response initially.
Yeah, no, it's like anything else. 90 to 95% of our property owners are good property owners. They'll take care of their lawns, they'll cut their grass, they'll shovel the sidewalk. It's the 5 to 10 that aren't good property owners that everyone has issues with. So we did put that out, so you may, hear some grumbling from people that we're getting them out on do their sidewalks, but weather's turned, and we've done some already, and build them to them. So we've got some more on the way, and we may have some more after this last round of door knockers went out.
What's the timeline?
Well, the bylaw reads, it's a little bit different than unsightlies. Unsightlies are very subjective, and you have to give them notice and you have to give them time. The bylaw basically says you have 24 hours after the last snowfall to do it. So certainly it gets a little bit challenging when we have a snowfall, and then within 24 hours or 36 we have another one, or you get wind that's blowing in. But people had more than had reasonable time over that cold snap. We didn't want to, make people be out there when it was that cold. So now we're a bit warm. So we'll give them, we'll still be on the generous side. We'll give them a day or two from the notice going up, and we'll go out and check. And if they don't have them done, then we'll arrange contractors to go in and clean them, and we'll send them the bill. So we started that, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to see with council, I thank you for your time last Saturday morning. I'm just wondering if Saturday, February 5th works with anybody. No.
No, I got some basketball.
Okay.
3 Hills for that day.
Okay. Not that
Which
it's-
is fine. It's not.
Not that it's not important to have Councilor Olson, but he will have gone on the tour previously. So if that date works for the rest, I would suggest we tentatively schedule it.
Where are you going?
I think the next one we'll probably go to will be our recreation block. So we'll try to do the arena, curling rink, swimming pool, community center, Centennial Place. So we'll try and do that grouping in there.
So, Councilor Warwick, that work for you? No, you're muted again.
You're muted.
No, sorry, it does not. If we bumped it up a week, it would work, but that week I've already have, I have another appointment scheduled in.
So when you say bump it up, do you mean earlier to the 29th of January,
Later,
February 12th?
to February 12th. Yes, February 12th works for me.
The only thing for me is February 12th. It doesn't work for me, but Kevin will be the one doing the tour. So I'm certainly comfortable if the 12th works for you guys.
I'm gone for that too, but
Are you?
You're able to add a lot of information as well.
Well, I like to be there, but it's more important for council. So what about the 29th
19.
Of January?
of January?
Sure.
Okay,
Oh.
you've got,
yeah.
and I'm still away on the 19th. So
I've already been there.
what's the date? The 26th?
26 is next.
So far, so good for me, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't have anything going on.
Does it work for you,
26th
Councilor
of
Warwick?
what?
The 26th?
26th of February.
Yes, that works. It's a full week of meetings, so everything will be that week. Oh my gosh. But I do have that day open right now, so quickly book it in.
It seems to work, so let's go with that. we'll do the same type of format, Mr. Mayor. So 9 o'clock, we'll probably meet at the arena and we'll just walk through each of the respective facilities and hopefully around noonish we'll be done. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that's all I have for my report, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any questions.
Must be doing magnificent. Next,
So I'm not sure if Lori, do you have anything you wanted? Yeah, I know Lori doesn't have a written report and she's been away on vacation, so.
Yeah, I enjoyed some days off. Thank you very much. Still in Christmas mode and walked into the office yesterday. There's been a few staff changes. So lots of changes with licensing, mail accounts, alarm codes, all that kind of stuff that I try to manage. And also working this week on the newsletter, which pretty much will be my focus for the entire week.
And for council's sake, the focus of this newsletter for the most part is budget. So we'll try and identify the decisions made at budget and the items approved by council in the budget. So it's big focus is on the budget, so.
I think we're just gonna come in and see it tomorrow.
Okay. So Gwen had done a report. She wanted to do a report till the end of December. So her report is attached. A couple things I want to just go through with council. So with not having the director in place, my plan moving forward with the community services group is to certainly be the guidance. Certainly Kevin will be picking up more. Michelle will be picking up more. I'll be picking up some more and trying to spread the load of not replacing that position. At the end of the day, I plan on attending the community services board meetings, at least for the initial while till Michelle and Kevin have their feet wet and we've got a good process going through there. And so we will get reports on what's happening in the community services area. It'll probably be just added to my report or be a subsection of my report each month. But I wanted to highlight the outdoor rink is open. It's now warm enough to be able to use it. Croca Curl, they painted the lines on it today. So hopefully the warm weather didn't cause the paint to run. They're hoping to get floods on in the evening and in the early morning over top of the paint, and it should be ready to go. We did buy new proper Croca Curl rocks and they have arrived and they're here, as you can see in the picture. So hopefully as soon as that is ready, we'll be hitting social media, letting people know that it's available and to go out and enjoy it. The other thing I wanted to touch forward in the report is the medically at risk driver program. So as we discussed a little bit earlier, the town did receive money and funding to support transportation assistance for those seniors or people who are medically at risk. So we've done some background work and the committee that was investigating and worked on it have settled on a program called Drive Happiness. So it is an organization that manages volunteer driving programs. So they're set up, they have an organization that is set up. So we are just doing a memorandum of understanding with them. They will basically, once we get the program up and running, we will be looking for, we're using the word volunteer drivers, but there will be compensation to those drivers. They will be using their own vehicle, paying their own gas, but they will receive a portion of the fee that is charged for the ride. So you will pay the people riding will pay Drive Happiness, and they will then reimburse the driver based on the number of calls they use, and they keep a small portion of the fee for their administration. They do all the driver recruitment, they do all the screening, they do all the appointments. So if you need a driver, you contact them through a web program or a phone number, they'll find the driver, connect the driver, set everything up. So I don't know all the details. Certainly as we get closer to it, I've asked for Michelle to do a presentation to staff and to council, just to basically let them know how the program works. With the money that we had through the grant, the vision is initially to provide a number of free rides to our users to get them into the system, using the system, and moving forward that way, because we want to spend that $15,000, and we can pre-purchase paid rides through Drive Happiness that our residents can access, and hopefully it gets them in the system, gets them using the system, gets them used to it, and then kind of a trial period to work out the bugs. So
That's cool.
Insurance.
Yeah.
On these vehicles, like, I mean,
yeah, it's all covered through Drive Happiness,
oh, okay.
and that's part of the fee that they get.
My turn.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, I'm just wondering, this $15,000 is for this year only.
Well, I'm not sure, I don't have the exact time frame. There is a time frame for the dollars to be spent. Just like most grants, you get a year or two to use them. So we're going to want to expend it within the appropriate time period. I can't tell you what that date is right now.
Yeah, and I guess this is basically a trial run to see if it's something that we want to continue with, and then look at coming up with some money down the road if that funding is not available in the future.
Yeah, that money probably won't be available again in the future. I guess what we will use that money for will be to enter into it and to subsidize the first times of operation. But like anything else, unless council wishes down the road to subsidize those tickets, and I'm just using $10 as a number, it might be $10 a trip, and that the expectation will be that the person who is taking that trip will be paying that amount, and it will be removed from the town. It'll be between Drive Happiness and them. They'll buy the tickets. If council wishes to enter into a subsidy program to subsidize that, certainly that can be an option down the road, but it would be generally using town tax dollars to subsidize it if we wish to.
But this is a good opportunity to use these funds to
Definitely.
test it out and see if there is a need for it, and a user uptake in it, as far as then looking at maybe a potential to subsidize it if that is.
The
deemed
program works
necessary.
well or
Yeah.
not. Did you have a question?
Your worship, I just wanted to comment that the $15,000, I believe, is for more, that full amount isn't for the subsidy portion. I think that helps with some of the study and.
Well,
hiring
we've already
someone to
spent
work on
as,
that, and
we've already
towards
spent
that again.
some to Kim Barth. I think the committee's vision is to take a portion of that money and do some work on the existing handy van. But a significant portion of it probably would be used for subsidies as the kickoff to the program.
Yeah, from the Community Services Board, we discussed it, the Drive Happiness, and what it is, they're $10 tickets you'd sell, or like the people would buy. Each $10 ticket would allow them 30 minutes or 40 kilometers. So if you were to go to a meeting in Drumheller, it would take 3 tickets.
Or 4 tickets.
It would take you 3 or 4, yeah, like depending on the time. And that, and then of the $10, $8 is paid to the driver, and $2 goes back to the Drive Happiness for the administration part of it. So it seemed to be a pretty good deal, and they are planning on getting, handing these things out until we get people on, like some drivers lined up and users, it's gonna take time to get it set up. So,
Yeah, there'll be
Yeah.
time, we'll have to, as we get the memorandum of understanding signed off, the next steps will be, they'll provide us information to recruit drivers and screen drivers, and they suggest that you don't move forward promoting the program until you have a certain number of drivers in place, otherwise you're gonna start off on the wrong foot and people are gonna be calling and you're not gonna have any drivers. So that'll be another challenge in that, it may not even be a challenge. There may be lots of people out there who are willing to do this. But we've got to start that process. So
I'm gonna say $32 for a trip to Drumheller and back is pretty tight on fuel.
well, it'd be, yeah. Yeah, for that driver, yeah, because they would get 4 tickets, so they would get $32, yeah,
in 2 hours of your time.
and 2 hours of
I
time.
didn't even factor that in. I just
Yeah.
looked at the gas side.
See, that's why they do use the word volunteer.
Yeah.
The focus behind the $8 is you're gonna get the dollars to recoup the costs that you're incurring to be the volunteer. So it's not nearly addressing the time by no means. But for $10, gives you 30 minutes, 40 kilometers, you could, hopefully do a few stops in town and get back home within that half an hour period. So
Yeah,
and
for-
also in the time, they are looking at using handyman if they can get, if drive happiness will allow it to be on the insured vehicles, they're looking at trying to include that, but we don't know yet if it's gonna be included or not. It's up to them to say whether they can use it or not as one of the vehicles.
So the bottom line is that we're moving forward finally with some public transportation. We're getting close to this program. Don't know all the ins and outs yet, but as we do, certainly we will entertain and present to council so that you fully understand how the program works and move forward. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that we're moving through there. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is Glenn did meet with Damien Currick last week when he was out here, did tour him through the community center. We are hoping that the February council meeting, we will have a revised project plan, grant application to get council's endorsement on moving forward in the green and inclusive community buildings. So I believe Glenn did send out the previous plans to council. I don't think the plans have changed tremendously. I think they're pretty close. The only difference will be to meet the requirements of the green and inclusive community building. We may have to put in some additional energy efficiency components, whether we need to change the lights out or change some of the HVAC systems to meet the criteria of the grant. So it fits right up the alley. We believe it's to design spaces for all people. And I know one of the challenges in the community center has been handicap accessibility in our washrooms. So that would take care of that part of the program as well. And of course, any energy efficiency components we can add that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions that meets the mandate. So we'll have more information for you at the next council meeting, but I know Glenn did show MP Carrick through just so he had a good eye and good vision on it, so he can support it through the process as much as he can. So I think that's what I have for Glenn's report. And if there's any questions on it, don't hesitate to ask. So
There is a small area in her report, and I didn't know whether or not we should just note it, that under the Canada Summer Jobs.
yes.
She had
it's the wrong
stated
date.
2002.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt to have it on there.
Yeah.
Correct.
We will fix that to 2022.
Thank
so.
Has a question.
Oh, Councilor Warwick, sorry.
Mr. Neal, or Mr. Mayor, can I address Mr. Neal? Mr. Neal, in Gwen's report, I noticed a document, the Circle of Supports. And I just was reviewing all the supports on there and all the addresses and what a valuable community tool this is. And I'm wondering where, if we have this on poster format, do we have it on card handouts? Do we have it on fridge magnets? Do we have this anywhere? You know, new community members coming to our community in Welcome to Hanna pack. I mean, the information on here is invaluable. And where exactly, what we're doing with this document.
So I'm not the expert. I know that it changes on a fairly regular basis. So I think annually they go through and update some of the, especially some of the volunteer components. But I know that they have had it posted in the arenas, in the community centers, in Centennial Place.
Okay.
Public places all over, medical
I think
clinics and grocery stores.
I don't know, did you hear Lori's comments, Councilor Warwick?
No,
You speak
no, I
louder,
didn't hear
Lori.
it.
You know, it's in a lot of public places and private enterprise, as well as the hospital and the medical clinics, mental health, restaurants, the grocery stores. The problem with it is it's there all the time and it is updated. It's updated at least once a year. But I think it sometimes becomes white noise because it's always there.
Did you
Okay.
get that, Ann?
My thoughts are, oh, sorry, can you hear me? It's just my thoughts that the value that's been put into this and the research and all the information on there is maybe there's a better way to kind of get this information out to, I mean, I've never really looked, but I've really never ever seen this anywhere. And maybe I have seen it, but just same thing, it's white noise and it's been there for so long, it's, you know, part of the fixture. But I'm just wondering if there is an appetite to maybe, you know, have it in a different format where we could be, you know, giving this out to community members. And I know lots of people that could use the information on this particular document.
I believe it's also circulated to all of the members of the interagency. So that's very broad, RCMP to what FCSS, to addictions and mental health, in not just in our community.
Okay.
So absolutely, there's probably other opportunities, but it is very widely distributed that I'm aware of, and I don't distribute it. So it's probably even greater than I'm aware of.
Okay.
So we can certainly,
Thank you.
certainly take that back to the Community Services Board and ask them if they've got any, you know, and talk about where they want to go. If there's things, like I said, we haven't done fridge magnets or anything too onerous because of the fact that it does change. And you'd hate to have
Right. Okay. Thank
updated
you.
information and somebody's in an emergency, so.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, buddy.
I have nothing further to add to my report at this time. Any questions that you have to answer?
No breaks today.
No, that's.
I'm just saying
We
with the
try not to use that word around here.
It's like waiting for a goalie with a shutout. You don't ever mention
Oh,
it.
I see. With the temperature changes, I've just, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We've had a few sewer calls when holes have actually got a lot of frost that has plugged a few. So we did deal with some of that today. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed.
Any other questions?
Just the tour I thought was very well done.
Yeah.
Yes, I was gonna say thanks for coming.
Worthwhile regardless if you've seen it before. There's always something new. So thank you for your time.
Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Okay, now I get to do my motion, right? Yeah, there you go. Motion that council accept senior administrative reports 8.01 to 8.04 as presented for information. Motion, Councilor Kroll,
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Warwick, you better get around the book, you bud. Councilor Warwick. Okay. Okay. All in favor? Councilor Warwick? There we go. Guess who's next? Mr. Mole.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I used to have an appointment. You can sit.
You can move it over there.
Now my report letter. There we go. I don't know if Mr. Neal's told you or not, but usually you get to see me quarterly. And January is always my annual statistics reports from the year before. And I'll give Lori a second here to get the
I just tried to
technology.
share it so that Angie can see it at this point. I don't think she can, so just give me a minute here to play.
Got any jokes you want to tell us, Mr. Muller?
Not with the owls on them.
The owls.
You're sharing, but not, yeah.
If it helps, Lori, I have all the documentation that was sent to us in our package, if that's okay.
Can you see that, Counselor?
Yes, thank you.
So current membership, we're sitting at 27 firefighters, including the officer group. Our goal is to have 30 in total. We have a continuous flow. There's all members moving out of town, retiring for whatever reason. Luckily for us, it's a small amount at a time, but there is that continuous need to find new members. And we're not unique to that. Recruitment, retention is a major part for any volunteer department these days. Little snapshot of how long our guys have been here, guys and girls, sorry. There's a couple of us over 30 years. I think 31 years, there's two of us. And this just gives the breakdown of our different guys. Puts about a good third of the department under 5 years, so, right? So that we've had a lot of recruitment in the last few years, which is good. Keeps us busy with training, that's for sure. We do have a regional training group, the East Central Emergency Training Partnership, was established in 2005. Was established in accordance with the Fire Commissioner's Office Regional Training Initiative that came out at that time, which was tied to some really good grant money that unfortunately has dried up. If you did that, Lori, or if I did. So in 2021, we can you slide the youth team down to the bottom.
Just trying to run my stuff here.
Just grab it and
What, this black bar?
no, go down to the box right beside the pancake or the view of where we see Ange.
Oh,
Go into the top of that and thank you. So in 2021, we completed an NFPA 1001 Firefighter 1 course. That's your basic firefighting course. For some of you that have been around a long time, we used to do the S courses. This encompassed about a dozen of the S courses. If I went back, Councilor Kroll, to when you were on the department, we would have had the firefighter 1, firefighter 2, firefighter 3. This firefighter, oh yeah, sorry, Mayor, keep forgetting you're on too. This NFPA 1001 is encompassing all of those courses. So it's quite in-depth, but we're happy now to be able to teach that. We have 24 students, which is a full class, and 8 of them were from Hanna, the rest of them from throughout special areas. The regional training group includes all the towns, villages in special areas, as well as the MD of Katy Valley. works out to about 16 members, if I remember right. This last year, we taught this course over 4 weekends. It was the first time we did the full course like that. We're going to expand it to 5 weekends next time. Just we found 4 was just a little too tight, not quite enough hands-on. They pre-read all the material themselves and do exams, quizzes online prior to coming each weekend. So there's a lot of, back when you guys would have taken it, you showed up and one of us lectured, or you lectured to me back when I joined. And you listen to that and did your practical in between. Now, the lecturing component's a lot smaller. With PowerPoint technology, catch the highlights, they've read it, we see what their scores in the test has been. So we know whether or not they're reading the material and actually learning from it. We focus on the practical skills now on those weekends, and it's worked out good. It's valuing the firefighters' time a lot better. Just a picture of one of the classes last year outside of the training tower, working with ropes, hoisting equipment. So 2022, we have planned a busy training schedule. Hopefully COVID-19 wouldn't screw it up. But if you go to my next slide, the hazmat course for awareness and ops in January was moved yesterday. We postponed it. Just the amount of COVID in the region, and we have one department that's got, not ours, but one department that has numerous COVID cases in it right now. So we thought it best just to hold off. It's a 1 weekend course to do awareness and ops. So we're going to, hopefully February, before the rest of the courses start, we can squeeze this in. But I had some very disappointed students at a fire call last night because they were looking forward to it. We have pump driving and maintenance in March. This is part of the old pump A that you two would have taken, but it focuses mostly on maintenance and driving. That's its whole thing, and turning a pump on, how pumps work. Then we have pump operations in April that focus more on just the actual pumping skills. NFPA broke this into separate courses a number of years ago. And then come fall, we're going to start another 1001 Firefighter 1 course in October, hopefully complete it May or June of 2023. So that'll be a big class. I think we're close to having 24 students ready for that already. They got a Hanna, we'll probably have about 6 to 8 students in that course ourselves. This is just a picture of one of the guys up on the training tower during a Firefighter 1 course doing live fire attack, which you guys will get to see when we tour you through the training tower when the weather gets a little warmer than what it's been lately. As far as the burn tower, phase 1's completed. Phase 2, still some minor paint touch-ups to look after in the spring. We're moving one of the gates up top. Special Areas have been working on that for us, so we're not seeing much for a cost there, just supplies. And we still phase 3 that we're fundraising for to purchase and install our exterior burn props. Right now, it's coming in around $500,000. That'll be a prop like this, car prop. We need an actual car prop to meet the NFPA 1001 Firefighter 2 level, have to be able to fight a vehicle fire. And then this is what's called a quad, and we can run up to 4 different props at one time on this, so you can stage what you want for the weekend or the week. This one's just showing a couple different propane bullets and a valve set. We'll be able to take things off this and with a forklift and put different props in place and hook them up. All this stuff outside runs on propane. It uses vapor for ignition, but liquid propane for the actual fire. So it does get quite hot, and we will see our propane consumption drop or increase significantly. So far inside the burn tower, our propane usage hasn't been too bad because it's strictly vapor inside. We're not allowed to use liquid propane inside the building. As far as stats for 2021, we were busy. The CAO said I'll probably dwell on this, and I'd have to. We had 165 calls this past year. If you look at the previous year at 95, so it's about a 76% increase. So we did find ourselves responding to lots of calls. but not a lot of long duration calls. Our previous high was in 2017, was our highest ever before. That year, though, we had a lot of long calls, 8-hour calls, 12-hour calls, and some really massive grass fires that year that burned thousands of acres, a lot of mutual aid calls. This year, as you'll see as we go through the stats, we had a lot of shorter calls, different calls. So total, we had 65 incidents in town and 100 incidents out of town. Those rural incidents, the SA stands for special areas, AT is for Alberta Transportation, and MA for mutual aid. The Alberta Transportation, the government pays fire departments in the province for anything that happens between fence to fence on a primary or secondary highway. So ditch fire, we can bill the Alberta government. MVA, we can bill the Alberta government. A medical assist that happens, you know, somebody's having a heart attack in a vehicle on that right away, technically we can bill the Alberta government. We have to do quite a report on it and send it in. There's a report I work out that then goes to Winona to create a bill for transportation. And it's quite a cycle we go through to recover our costs, but if you're looking at the fire department budget in the revenue column, it makes up a huge part of that revenue stream. This breakdown's the 5-year looking at town versus rural. So they pretty much seem to follow the same pattern other than the year before. This one's breaking it down for what we did this year for town, transportation, special areas, and mutual aid. So it gives you a better idea. Special areas and town calls tend to be very, very close. You think when we have a spike like this, maybe you'd see it in one and not the other, but historically they seem to stay pretty close. Seems like if things are busy in the country, they're busy in town. This is a 5-year comparison of the same. So again, we had a few less special areas calls this year than what we did back in 2017. Okay, can you drop down a bit so you can see the header on this, Lori, at all? Or? Okay.
It says
5
5
Y,
years.
so 5 years.
Is that something? Tell you in a second.
5-year
Oh,
false alarm measures.
the lovely technology of Zoom these days. Huh? Yeah, 5-year false alarm. So we are seeing a bit of a drop. We had 15 this year compared to 23 last year. So we were down again. Last year been a bit of a spike, but 2018 we'd had 32. So it is nice to see a bit of a drop on that. Next one is the grass fire comparisons. So these are grass or feed bales, anything to do with basically feed. Okay, we were back up from last year. Last year was a little wetter, right? So we were down in 2020 to 12, but back up to 35 this year. Probably still above average, but not near what we were seeing back in 2017. And even this year, the duration on most of these was a couple hours. I think we only had maybe 2 bad ones in the spring.
Worst ones were the trailers.
Yeah. Medical assists.
Wow.
Yeah. The 12, 10, 14 is our average, was our average. If you look back to years prior to 2017, those numbers were about 6. Last year, we went up to 20, which was a significant enough increase. And this year we had a 220% increase up to 46. And they are for a number of reasons. Most of you know the issues that EMS is facing in the province. Some of this is the transition to provincial dispatch center. They do not necessarily get it right all the time. So some of these we get dispatched to where EMS is not looking for our help or needing our help. But somebody in the dispatch center in Calgary thought that we should automatically go to an echo or Delta call, sent us out. And a lot of times we don't even get out of the fire hall and the crews radio back saying, we see a fire attached. We didn't ask for fire. And we get stood down. So
But
a
it
lot
still
of,
counts.
yeah, it still goes in the stat. We were paged out for a medical assist, so it still goes in the stat, even if we didn't actually attend it. Also this year, especially early in the year, we had a lot of drug overdoses in the community that we were responding along with EMS to. Also calls where EMS didn't have a unit in town a few times. So we were waiting for an ambulance to come from Castor or Coronation or Drumheller. So then our guys are doing medical first response. So it's not one thing that rose that made this column go up, seems to be a number of things. Hopefully we see that change for 2022 and then it starts coming back down. Lock me out, Lori, I lost. No. Want to advance me one slide, please?
What if a kid did?
Okay. So our miscellaneous calls, don't look at the screen, are at 13 this year. That's up from 6 last year. They're the calls that we have no other category for. Trash can fires, garbage dumpsters, anything that doesn't fit one of our other categories. Thanks, Lori. Why does it say medical?
Because I put it on the last screen.
And now
because
it's staying? Okay.
It stays there, yeah.
Okay, so this is 5-year compare or miscellaneous for 5 year. And we will move on to the next one. Thank you. This is our 5-year rescue MVA. So any motor vehicle accident, any rescue of any type gets into this category. Pretty average, maybe a little higher, 39. You know, with that 33, 34, if you go back over the last 10 years would be close to average. So they were spread out year long. Didn't seem to matter season or not this time. We just seem to be getting an average amount of MVA calls. Structure fires were up this year. We're at 10. Fair amount of them in the rural. So they were within special areas, some of the mutual aid. Within special areas, we get dispatched to all of Homestead Cooley's and all of Cessford's fire calls, no matter what it is. We're automatic mutual aid to back them up. Youngstown, we get a lot of calls into that area to back them up. So I know one of these 10 was for sure in the village of Youngstown. One was down at Cessford. In town ourselves, we only really had one major one on Railway Avenue in October, I believe. Vehicle fire. Our vehicle fire category also includes farm equipment. So if it's a tractor or hay bind, swather, combine, anything like that goes in under vehicle fire category. We're sitting at 7 this year, which last few years, you know, all the balers burned up around us. They were either Castors, Coronations, East Youngstown, Delia, even Craig Mile, different guys we'd hear, but we seem to be in this little circle this year when it came to these vehicles, that type of fire that wasn't affecting us.
1 day for the same guy, so tell him.
We did. He was our frequent flyer of the year. That was our 3rd call of the year to his area,
Yeah.
or to his farm.
Yeah. Sorry.
Twice in 1 day. So he definitely doesn't want to see us anymore.
No.
This is just a percentage breakdown of what we did in 2021. So you can see medical assist made up 28% of our time, grass fires 21, and so on. So it's just gives you a snapshot of what we do out of those 165 times that we move a truck.
So the false alarms, are those inaccurate calls, or are they alarm systems?
They include alarms ringing, and I've debated whether to change it. The new category, a lot of departments are using our alarms ringing calls. But then I get a true false alarm, I guess I'll have to put that under miscellaneous. I'm juggling with how
Yeah,
to,
no, no.
when to change
yeah.
it.
I was just looking at.
Most are automated alarms. And it wasn't too bad this year. But when they went through the town, when we had a increase in thefts in the community a number of years ago, you remember?
Yeah.
And the alarm companies started showing up here to sell alarms. We'll put a smoke detector in that alarm for you. Well, great, I have protection in my home. We get called every time you burn supper in that case. And it took a while to get rid of some of the nuisance ones and get the alarm companies to maybe not put the detector too close to that person's stove, or I know some people took them out because they just didn't like all the false alarms. There's a lot of people who do not like, I guess if the word's the embarrassment or the attention of 3 fire trucks parked in front of their house at 6 o'clock at night with
I
firemen
had that.
knocking
Yes.
on the door. We've had people hide, or they don't want to answer the door because they don't want to acknowledge it. It's like, well, the alarm company gave us your address. We're not leaving till we know it's good. Right.
And you do a great job, but the guy that set door off at the shopping at Berkeley still apologizes immensely for it, so.
I wasn't on that call that morning to your place.
It was actually a calamity of errors. I was in the shower when he set the alarm off, and I get out and the phone is ringing, and I think it was you actually. Yeah, asking me if there was really a fire at the shop, so geez, I should have got a whole shot.
So did we.
Yeah, well, but in fairness, everything was good. We went through, checked everything, checked the furnace room, checked all the trucks, and yeah, no, it was good. I mean, it false alarm, but I had no problem with that.
And how we look at it is if the occupant will work with us to make sure it's not happening too often. That's all we ask, right? Is that
It was an education process for my guys. And
Yeah.
trust me, they know what that little button on their fob meant now.
years ago, we used to have trouble with some of the institutions in town, old systems.
Those fires.
Hard to update those systems without spending, 6 figures to do it. So sometimes we had to be patient until their turn came around in budget to get their upgrades. Right now, it's been pretty good, although we are dealing with one institution building right now that's got an alarm problem going on. So hopefully they get it, hopefully they got it fixed by the end of the day today, but haven't heard yet. But yeah, false alarms, if I can stay at 9% or where we are right now, I'm pretty happy with that. It's not too bad. We don't like to say get too much for repeat offenders. And most people are good, right? They don't want that. They don't want to be, they think they're bothering us or being a nuisance if we're showing up back when they're not needed, right? So
Have you ever had to bill
we
for
have,
someone who's really turned it into a problem?
I had a discussion with council probably about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And as I told council then, I wasn't looking for a policy to do it at that time. We don't have a policy on it, so we'd be winging it if we did decide to do that.
It would
But
be a one-off, I think in this town.
education,
Yeah.
people have been really good. We haven't, we might get somebody has 2 or 3 in a row because they've got a problem.
Yeah.
But then they get it looked after, right? And if they're not legally required to have it,
Yeah.
say it's your business.
Yeah.
And nobody sleeps there at night, it's unoccupied, you're not required to have it. We'll just get to the point where we'll say, tell your alarm company to disregard.
Yeah. Yeah.
For 48 hours until you can get somebody out to fix it. If it's where people sleep at night, a life hazard, then we can't disregard and they can't shut the system off unless they walk the halls doing fire watch every 15 minutes. So, which isn't a pleasant thing for anybody to have to do. So, time of day just gives you a snapshot as to when we get called out the most. That 6 a.m. to noon starts to pick up. Noon to 6 p.m.'s are busiest, and then after supper to midnights are next. This seems to vary. I don't put a lot into this other than that noon to 1800s usually when we're busy. And that's because your grass fires hit the peak of the day when it's the driest out, when the humidity's the lowest and the temperature's the highest. Usually happens anywhere between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. around here in the summer. So that's why that category is there. And day of the week. And there's no pattern here. It changes year to year. I've tried to watch it to see if there's a, is Tuesday always traditionally slower or whatever, but there doesn't seem to be a pattern that I've been able to pick out of it.
I would have thought weekend.
You would think, and I know if you ask Brent and some of my guys, I dwell a lot on who's here in the weekends, making sure we have our coverage. You're always worried about weekends because that's when a volunteer department is the shortest on members, but it's not. Sometimes Saturday could be our lowest some years. It just seems to be all over the place. There's no real pattern. It's what I call an interesting pie chart to look at every year and go, okay. That's all I have today. Any questions?
I have a couple for you.
Oh,
Hope they're tough.
No, they're not.
thanks,
A
Bob.
little bit. What are your plans to try and come up with $500,000? Just.
Trying to find a
curious.
grant. I already
Okay.
have 250,000 in the bank to match it. We fundraised a number of years ago. When we went out in the early phases, phase one of the project, the town was able to secure a $350,000 grant.
Yeah. Yeah.
That didn't really fit any other project at the time. It had to be intermunicipality projects. It had to have more than one municipality involved in it. So special areas definitely was on board.
Yeah.
The Firefighters Association, we put 150,000 in at that time to get our first phase at $500,000. That got the concrete building up. The next phase to put the burn props in and the insulation and the propane installation and all of that was another $500,000. Special areas agreed to give us $250,000 one time if the other municipalities in our training group would partner in. So they gave us the 250 right away. We got a CFEP grant, the Hanna Firefighters Association did, for 250,000. So we put that towards that and went ahead with phase two. The other municipalities, I went out and did presentations to almost every council in our training group. Meet a lot of people like you, including the group here in Hanna at the time. And we asked for
$60 per capita.
60 or 65.
I think it was $60 per capita.
We went on the latest census data and just said that came close to what special areas have given us. So we used that number and just went out and said, doesn't matter how big or how small you are, if we go per capita, it's fair to everybody. And in some way, shape, or form, everybody came on in the end. Some took a couple years, some asked to pay it in over 2 years. Special areas offered bridge financing over 5 years. I know one town that used that. One of them was working to deal with their association, paid it instead of the village, but the village was on the hook for some other major projects they were doing at the time within the fire service. So that got us another close to 250,000.
Wow.
So we're sitting with 250,000 earmarked to the project. I've got a grant out with an oil company that I'm waiting to hear back on. I don't really want to mention it, which company right now, but I'm hoping, crossing my fingers. I asked for 250. Go big or go home, I guess. We will look, we've requalified for CFEP. So if we don't get the grant from the oil company, I'll be doing a CFEP application by June for major projects. I tried to coordinate those with the CAO and with the former community services director that we're not both chasing large project grants at the exact same time.
From the same funding. pool.
From the same funding pocket. I hate competing against ourselves. I know we got the money on the last CFEP and the library didn't get any that year. I know there's hard feelings, but you got to go for what you got to go for, right? And go that way. So yeah, so we're sitting not bad.
That's great.
I don't like spending dollars, spending a dollar to get a dollar. I want to get it on 50-cent dollars.
So Dave, then correct me if I'm wrong. You've spent approximately $1 million to date.
Yeah, it's actually closer to 1.6 million.
Yeah.
We actually
Do you
did,
know that you've spent?
so we, total project cost,
Well, not your total, what you've spent to date.
or to date, we are sitting at 1.1 million.
Okay, so you've spent 1.1 million. You've got 250,000 raised to do the last phase, which you expected to be a $500,000 project. So you're basically looking, if you're all said and done, at 1.6 And I guess just for council's info, the town of Hanna contribution to that 1.6 is, I believe, 153,000.
154, didn't change yet.
So,
And realistically, the money was spent, most of it in Alberta.
Yes, by going with the concrete tower, we saved a lot of freight.
Yeah.
Steel was high at the time, so getting a building out of the US where they were being made was getting expensive. The contractor asked, well, why not concrete? I'm like, because nobody is doing concrete because it's too expensive. He asked where the concrete plant was nearest, and I pointed that way. So they went over and met with Archie. Archie ended up selling it before they started, but they were able to work with the new owner and came up with a pretty good deal on concrete. Being
That's
that we're
really
2
well.
blocks from the plant.
Yeah.
One guy can batch, one guy can drive the truck and dump. You know,
That's incredible.
didn't need a lot of manpower, and the pours were all, you know, you had to pour the foundation, pour each segment as you went up, each
Yeah.
floor. So it wasn't like it was one big pour, so they got lots of work. Actually, you talked to them, they were quite pleased because it was some, you know, pretty big project for them
Big project.
to get that close with no mileage, right? No fuel, driving 2 blocks. So
Very good.
no,
Thank
it's taken maybe longer than what I would like to get it to where it is today, but financially
You don't
wise,
have patience?
no.
I never
don't
noticed
have
that.
patience.
My second question is a very quick one. When the scale shot up to 46 calls compared to the average over the year, you had
The medical assist. you're
medical
talking?
assistant.
Okay,
Do you get any compensation per call, or is that irrelevant? Because that's a huge impact on your department.
so with Alberta Health Services, we are part of what's called the Medical First Responders Program, MFR. We have to register with the province.
Okay.
And they are very clear that they are not paying you
Okay.
in any way, shape, or form to respond to their calls, that it's a municipality's decision to have their fire department respond. We can pick our response criteria. So we pretty much respond for regular medical calls upon request of the crew. We don't automatically respond to Delta and Echo heart attacks. The SCC, Southern Command Center Dispatch, that does EMS out of Calgary, has a hard time remembering that and reading their screen when the call comes up and not sending us sometimes. So that's contributed to a few of them, and they don't like it when I hold their feet to the fire about. It is not to be confused with our dispatch center. Red Deer Fire does our dispatch. It is
Yes.
not them making the mistake, because they just get asked by AHS for us to attend. We can get supplies. If we use supplies on a call before EMS gets there or while they're there, they will replenish our supplies, or we can go back up to the hospital and they'll give us, you know, if we wreck a bag valve, use a bag valve mask, they'll give us another one, or bandages or whatever. We can apply for a grant. We've been successful once or twice that the MFR program comes out with a small $2,000 grant. They do help us with training, offsetting some of the training costs, providing material, but we're about to do an MFR course here in another week, and there's going to be cost to it, but we do need to bring our guys' skills up to a little higher level because of the amount of calls we're doing. We've done CPR on a lot. I probably watched our guys do CPR this year on more people than I have in my previous 30 years on the department. Would that be a fair statement? Only that gets through the roof, isn't it?
Wow.
Like it's been a lot.
So
I
how come
appreciate
HS won't? Sorry.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
So it's their policy, although talking with the former health minister, holding his feet to the fire on a Zoom meeting one night, he didn't seem to have a problem with it. But of course, in the middle of a pandemic, you're not going to get anything anywhere.
No.
And now, unfortunately, he's no longer the health minister. So whether the new health minister holds the same belief that he did, I don't know. But it is definitely something that's going to come up in conversation.
Well, then provide us with that, quit stealing our ambulances.
Yeah, and we're not the only one. It's the
No, I know it's
whole.
province-wide. It's ridiculous.
I talked to a counselor out of a neighboring municipality a couple nights ago, and they're in a real.
Well, I think we all are when they're calling Hanna to go to a Calgary call.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't
then,
that
and then
awesome?
Hanna's stuck in there
Can't get back home.
They can't get home.
addressing other calls.
Or it drags them just long enough that when they do get back home, they're over their hours and they're forced to shut down for 8
Shift is
hours
done.
and park the ambulance and go home for 8 hours
Yeah.
because they're over their work hours.
And then we've got no coverage.
And then we got no coverage.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's ridiculous.
No, we're living it. So
We appreciate you.
anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
The motion that accepts the Hanna Fire Department employee report for October to December 2021, as well as 2021 annual report for information, and thank Chief Wall for presentation this evening.
Hey.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So,
I haven't got my name on there yet.
Counselor Bowden,
Please, thank you.
all in favor? Carried. Nine point oh two, development officer appointment. Motion first,
Yes, please.
the council rescind the appointments of Adrian Mull as development officer and Rhonda Lund as assistant development officer effective immediately, January 11th, 2022. And appoint David Mole as development officer and Wyona Gucci as director of corporate services, assistant development officer in the town of Hanna, effective January 12th, 2022 to October 11th, 2022. Yes, Councilor Campion.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll just briefly, I think council's aware with the retirement of Adrian Mole as development officer, we entered into an agreement with Mr. David Mole to perform those duties. So we wanted to rescind the previous appointments and officially appoint David as development officer and Winona as the assistant development officer. Winona will work with me on situations when David's not available, not around. And when I say not available for an extended period of time. There's no expectation that you need to turn a development permit over in a day or 2 days, but even though this period of time is quite quiet, there are questions from residents coming in wanting to know whether they need a development permit, what the process is. So we're working through that. David's learning about the land use bylaw, and the challenges we'll have is sometimes there's things that don't fit the land use bylaw. And that's what MPC is for. And so we're moving forward, and I'm quite confident in the system that we have in place. So. And I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
That was easy. All in favor? Carried. 9.03, Director of Emergency Management appointment. Motion, council appoint David Mull as Director of Emergency Management for the town of Hanna for a term ending December 31st, 2022. Motion.
Sure.
Councilor Olson.
So again, similar to our previous appointment, we have contracted David to perform the duties of Director of Emergency Management, and this is just the official appointment by council. The date of December 31st, 22 is just to align with what is the date on this contract. So.
Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Um, 9.04, Commit Canada Reopening Fund Grant Application. Recommended motion that council authorizes CAO to submit a commemorate Canada Reopening Fund Grant application to the Department of Canadian Heritage in relation to the 2022 Platinum Jubilee community celebrations and sign on any matters concerning this application. Holy cow.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll give you a bit of a background, and it seems strange, but we came across this grant. It hasn't been well promoted, but basically it is to reopen society after COVID has passed. And it's strange that we're still in the middle of COVID, and the federal government is certainly pushing that we're in the middle of COVID, yet they've got this fund there to basically, and as you see, eligible projects, your project must be free of charge, be open to the public, support the revival of local economies, commemorate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, provide an opportunity for Canadians impacted to share their stories, experience, and contributions. Examples of projects: one-time celebratory or commemorative events that encourage participation. So we haven't got all the details worked out on the grant application, Mr. Mayor, but it has to be in by the end of January, and we needed a letter of support. I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of the day, when we put the grant application in, that they say, hold on, we're not able to do anything right now. But we are going to work with Michelle to put together an initiative. I know previous council will know when we first entered into COVID, we talked about having a party, a few months down the road when COVID was over. Now it's 2 years down the road. But we've always wanted to do something when COVID was done to celebrate we got through this, and recognize, the people that played a large part in us getting through it. So we're going to put our best foot forward and see if we can get some funds to do something here. It is strange that we're moving forward with the reopening through the federal government at this point in time, but it is what it is.
It's their rules and
Their time frame, and like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of the day they delay it, but at least we'll get our application in and be ready to roll. So
It's kind of a quick, that deadline's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah,
January 31st.
yeah, well, they extended it. It originally was, I think, yesterday.
Oh.
I just saw something about it not promoted very well. I just happened to catch something. Rhonda had saw it and brought it to my attention just before Christmas. So, and I was shocked when I read the details that in the middle of COVID, they're got a reopening fund, but they do. So let's try and take advantage of it.
Maybe they know something we know.
okay, so we get someone to make a motion. Counselor Campion, any further discussion? All in favor? Counselor Kroll?
Yeah.
Yep. 9.0506. Sorry about that. My mouse is doing bad things right now. Just 1 second. It's got a little bit of a mission of its own here, so. Sorry about that. 9.05, Development Annual Statistics Report. Council recommended motion that council accepts the 2021 Development Annual Statistics Report for information. Councilor Bowden.
Sure.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask our newly appointed development officer to give you a brief presentation on the 2021 Development Statistics Report. I know that David wasn't a part of the development in 2021, but I know he's gone through it with the previous development officer, so I will turn the floor over to him.
I like keeping IT on their toes.
I know you do.
Councilor Warwick, you have that in front of you, don't you?
It's identical to what was in the package.
She should be good.
So maybe all of you do, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
then don't worry about bringing it up, Lori, you've got it here. So if you look at the number of development permits issued by type, according to Adrian, this wasn't anything really shattering as far as any difference in trends. Probably demolition being a little higher than normal, and that's our own demolition with the number of buildings that the town was knocking down. If you go to the 2021 percentage of development permits by type, the pie chart, same thing, just a breakdown showing what we did. Again, hopefully you don't have any too many hard questions, because this is probably newer to me than it is to some of you. But again, residential, the residential addition was 36%. So that's any current property that had a change, whether it was a carport or a room added on or a significant
Yeah,
renovation.
fence or-
Yeah. And then recreation, new was a fair 126% of it was recreation new. So I was wondering what that would be, but whether it's spray park was in this one. or not.
Probably, yeah.
It's the only thing I could think of that popped into my head. The next one, the 2-year comparison. In the red is the current 2021, and the backdrop, the yellow is the 2020. And again, up a little, a few columns, down in a few, nothing too earth shattering that I could see out of it. And I'll tell you, you're probably gonna see some different reporting on this next year as I get my feet wet and see what's what. I think the important one is the completed development permits issued by year. It gives you a good 10-year snapshot. Yes, that one. So when I look at that, I'd say we're pretty average, maybe climbing back up from a low. But you know, comparable to where you were in 2015. So looked like we went through a little bit of a development slump, but the next one is the permit value by year. And that one surprised me on the 10-year, just how much it did fluctuate. 2014 obviously was a huge
School.
year. School.
It
School.
only takes one project.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. We and Lori were talking about stats earlier, and it's so easy to skew stats when one thing, when you got a low number, can make a huge difference, right?
Yeah, a big chunk of 2014 was the JC sheriff work.
And then 2017.
2017 was the service building.
John Deere service. Okay. Yeah. And then it seemed like we went down quite a bit. This year climbed back up a bit. Keeping in mind the demolitions would be part of that permanent value, I believe, would they not?
Yeah, and I also, I believe, what would have impacted that would have been the spray park construction as well as the GFL development.
Oh, yes, that'd been a big
Yeah,
chunk.
in
of it.
20.
And then the last one is the home occupation development permits issued per year. One of the surprises the CAO kept from me until after I signed my contract was that I get to do development applications for home occupancy businesses, business licenses. Thanks, Counselor, for that. So I will tell you right now, I want to look at that and see. I know the Business Hub had talked to the town a little bit before about trying to make some things a little maybe less red tape and a little easier. So I would like to look at home occupancies as to whether we can classify them as minor or major. You know, if there's something that's a real minor impact to the neighborhood, do we really need a development permit for it? So I know the land use bylaws up for review coming up, probably hopefully in 22. So that'll be some of the things I'll be asking Palliser to just at least tell us what other communities are doing. You know, I'm as a local businessman, definitely going to be looking at trying to, you know, make it easier for businesses to succeed. Still got our regulations they got to follow, but if we can cut a little red tape and make things a little easier to navigate, all the better.
Harvest Sky just had a report presented, or we went through it based on one of the consultants on dealing with red tape and all the difficulties that have happened in the past due to developing permits, and whether it's coming from special areas or Hanna or Palliser. A lot of them were brought forward, and it's quite an interesting report. And yeah, there's lots of room for improvement. So I believe Palliser is getting a copy of it as well. And there's really a strong push for it not to just sit on the shelf, that something actually gets done. And a lot of it is communication and education, like where people have the information online where they can go and and just have a look at it and see what they can do on their own. And maybe there's a lot that they can do online, you know, as far as filling out the minor developing permits that.
So the challenge, council with home-based businesses and the land use bylaw is obviously residential areas are not zoned for business activities. So that's the process that's been in place. We have looked at some options, and as Mr. Mole had indicated, whether we can have a minor or a major based on the type of traffic or noise or whatever that a home-based business may bring to a residential area. Like I said, I've been here again almost 9 years, and I don't believe we've had any home-based is turned down. We do get some questions from time to time on some of them, and we would consider them probably in the major category when we're dealing with people who want to set up mechanic shop in their garage. Residents are concerned about noise, they're concerned about fire hazards, they're concerned about people leaving their vehicles there that are in disrepair, waiting to be fixed. So, but most of ours, 95% of ours, I would guess, probably would fit in our minor category and would hopefully be able to streamline that process moving through. A lot of home-based businesses, when they come to us, they've already started operating. So we're like, okay, you can keep going. We've got a process to go through before it's official, but a lot of them were a bit of an afterthought with a home-based business. So we're working through that. In regards to that report that Councillor Bowden referred to, it is a good report. One of the challenges we have is on our building permit side, and the fact that we delegate building permits to Palliser, who then contracts building permits to Superior. And so it's disjointed. It's not necessarily the smoothest process at times. So we do need to work on that. And I know Devin's looked at the report very closely and has had a lot of comments on the report. So we'll see how that goes. So.
Yeah, when it comes to home-based business, it's a discretionary use, so I can't approve it. It has to go to MPC, correct?
No.
Okay,
No.
the way Adrian was talking on some.
So home-based businesses basically don't come to MPC, but there is a process. So the application is made. Then the residents have to be notified in the immediate area of the place where it's going to go. So if they've got any feedback, concerns, issues, they have 21 days to respond, and then we come back. Like I said, in the last 9 years, I don't think we've had any home-based businesses that have been turned down. We have had residents who have called to say, well, I got this letter about them doing a business. What does that all mean? And when generally you explain to them what they're going to do, they're, oh, okay, thanks. Nobody's filed any opposition. So, but yeah, so it's a process. But hopefully we can streamline that in 2022.
It'll be interesting to see that report if you can.
Yeah, I think, well, I believe Adrian had left it on his desk.
There's a lot of things on the desk.
I thought it was there but I have a copy of it
I'll
electronically as
check
well.
tomorrow when I'm in.
I like that definition. That file.
Well, it's a
It's in
fairly
multiple
big
files
report.
right now.
She was doing some
Don't
revisions
look
as
at my
well,
office.
so whether it's the final
After
report-
your meeting?
Yeah, I think that was nice.
Oh, okay.
Use my
So she might be still
Okay.
finalizing it or whatever,
Okay.
but I think Mark is going to present
Okay.
and bring it to council.
Okay.
As well.
Any other questions on things I don't know?
Mine's more of a comment. When it comes to the home-based businesses, I really do encourage us to continue down the road of making it easier. And one of the reasons is Hanna doesn't have anywhere else for businesses to go. There are no 12-story towers that have offices for rent. There's nothing like
We
that.
have a
available.
lot that,
You have a
that can
few
happen on
little
that.
lots, yes. Where it's been an issue for a lot of people, including myself, is there are a lot of older homes. Prior to this blitz of homes being sold, there were a lot available. And I had approached the previous bylaw enforcement person and was told not to apply because that area is zoned residential. You can't have a business in a residential neighborhood. So instead, they have a dilapidated home for 6, 7, 8 years instead of allowing possibly a small craft booking shop or something to go in there. So hopefully that'll be part of this, is to look at discussing altering some of the zones to be more flexible, because the town has a lot of people moving here, but we still don't have the infrastructure to allow businesses, because there is no real commercial park that has places for rent.
I think our land use bylaw, because it's up for review and because it is
10 years old.
10 years old,
Yeah.
2012, a lot has changed.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar is not what it was even 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, to where we are now. The amount of internet businesses, those types of businesses that have no foot traffic,
No foot traffic.
but they want to be able to write their home off. They want to do it legally and have a business license. Those I'm hoping are ones that we can get into the minor category where I'll stop to approve them as development officer, but not look at the having to put it out to the neighborhood and speed it up.
And
Right.
the 21 days, yeah.
Yeah, speed it up so that, because when you post it, the letters to the neighbors, it's 21 days you wait and do nothing to give them time to reply back. So just trying to streamline it, but we'll see where it goes.
Actually,
Anything
that has already changed. There's a, Orange Pandas, a store that's on First Avenue, First Street,
First half.
just
That
south
is-
of the post office.
I believe that's a transitional area. isn't it?
Yeah.
That is
It's already zoned, so she's okay.
Our land use zoning is very
erratic.
all over the place with a
Yeah.
lot of spot zoning
Mhm.
has been done over the years. Anybody can apply to, well, as you know,
Mhm.
to change the zoning on their property if they want to do something different with it. It's just,
I'll be coming to visit you. with one.
it's not maybe a good land use.
But
In a perfect world, your land use would be set by how you want to see that area become. And you try to stay that and not do spot zoning all the time. I know spot zoning is frowned upon quite a bit in the development world, but if we were looking at the map later this afternoon, and I got a C1 lot here and a C2 lot here, and then a MH for the rest of the block, and you're like, well, something happened here at one time, they wanted to change this, right? And we don't know which change, it might have all been C1 and got changed to MH, or
Yeah.
you'd have to go back to look, but, and in an older community like ours, you're bound to have things change as to what you're doing in what districts, right?
and having a space occupied versus having a dilapidated
Yeah.
building is better than nothing, in my opinion.
Well, and the trend to turn homes into small businesses isn't new.
Yeah.
I mean, Murray Shack did it with his law office, and then Lori took that over as a funeral home office.
Yeah.
The realtor office across the road was a home. It's happened numerous times. If done right, it can be a really great thing for the community. Just depends where you're doing it.
Candy.
Eye candy is
Candy
another
as well,
one.
yep.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because that district, if you go back 100 years ago, that was the business district where the old courthouse is.
Okay.
That was Main Street. That was where things started in this town. If you go back
School
in time.
division.
Yeah, school division. It's just land, the story was land got too expensive, so people on Second Ave started to put business, more commercial in there, so. but- Any other
Thank you.
questions? Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Do you wish to accept that?
I think you
We
did.
did. Yes, we did. All in favor? Carried. I see bylaws number 10, Kim.
No bylaws
No
tonight.
bylaws tonight. Number 11, council reports. Motion that council accept all council reports for information. I apologize. I thought I'd hit send and I'm down at the office and I'm looking at a draft in my part. No, that was all part. And, yeah. So I do apologize for being the last one. We get a motion to that effect. Do it after. Councilor Murphy. Do that.
We can do it now. You can have the motion now, and now we can have the reports.
I'm brave, I'll do it.
So I don't know if you want to go in a particular order, Mr. Mayor, or,
We can just go right, I'll start mine, pretty quiet, we had, the meeting at the chamber, there's some disgruntled members, on the executive, we're working on trying to smooth out and figure out what's going on or what has happened. The passport system, we're looking at making it a better, more receptive package, how we can make more business and more inclusive. Santa Claus parade, again, same thing, trying to figure out how to get more people involved and so on and so forth. Then I had a meeting on Friday with MP Kirk. It's interesting to sit with him and understand the struggles that the opposition have, and as CEO Nelson had mentioned, you know, it's the easiest job in the world, but it's not. You know, he's offering to help, but his hands are tied, and it's like having a wallet full of potential money that he can't get to. He did offer to assist us in some grants that may be available. And what was the term that he used? Something about a library.
Library of Congress.
Yes, the Library of Congress. And so he did offer that. His CE is there, and he's there for Ottawa for 9 months. So that was one of the things. But it was interesting to talk to him as a person, more so than an MP. So that's mine. In a nutshell. Councillor Spoden.
I just have a couple additions. Harbor Sky Economic Development. As I mentioned, we had our meeting the other day, and one of the areas that they that was covered was the agriculture center. And so there is our final report regarding it has come in, and the next step is to look for some have a community engagement and bring some interesting people or groups together and to try and move this project forward. And so what it entails is the livestock hub components, education components, research facility, riding and event center. And so that is sort of the next thing. Again, another report that the amount of time and effort that's gone into it, please don't let it sit on the shelf, that we will need to find somebody that is interested in the community to help lead this project going forward on a volunteer basis that has interest in some of these areas and is interested in devoting time towards getting it going. So I believe it might be coming to council sometime in the near future. There's also a destination creation program that I know Community Futures, and my apologies, Councillor Warwick. It's just I had the opportunity to have a discussion with the director there regarding some extra money that they did have. And there is a program that if people are interested in, we can forward it on, but it was through the hub as well that they're going to be providing an online course. And if you want, there's 9 chapters, and if you want some more information, I have this information here. Otherwise, maybe I'm not sure if Councillor Warwick has had a chance to see that or not. The deadline for applying is January 26th, and it's on, I believe it's done by Zoom, and highlighting the interdependence of community and business as never before. So it's how to help grow your community. So that's all I have.
Any questions? Councillor Campion.
Nothing further to add. I will be taking my granddaughter to the Community Services Board meeting on the 31st, and hopes that maybe she will join it as the youth participant.
Please. Nice.
Counselor Crowell.
I attended the Hanna Medical Corporation Board last month. We had another meeting this morning. It was to introduce Mark from Starland County. He's the representative from Starland. He was there to be introduced, I guess, to all the other members. And we discussed items going to be away from the office for a while, and we just discussed how it was going to be handled from there. Like, we would be kind of filling in for her, or a lot of her stuff can be done over the phone and on computers, so it was pretty basic. It was nothing much there. I brought up the topic of this ICOR, which is blood testing for antibody. That Three Hills, Crete, Grand Prairie, there's quite a few different communities that have started a program for it. What it does is it tells you whether you got antibodies, immunity, like the level of your immunity in your blood, and the clinic, the board, didn't want nothing to do with it as far as being involved or encouraging anything with it, because of Alberta Health Services. That they're the ones that support, supply all our local doctors and staffing and so on. So it was, I took it and I handed it over to the Chamber of Commerce, because that's who handled it in the Crete.
Oh, okay.
And
What about Three Hills, Council Crowe?
Three is being done by just a group of citizens.
Okay.
Yeah. They are Brandy from Community Services or Chamber of Commerce.
yeah.
I mean, she looked forward, or she looked into it in quite a bit of detail. She went to Grand Prairie. She's been in Drayton Valley, or like communicated with Drayton Valley, probably about 8 or 9 different communities, and they're all kind of, the Chamber of Commerce is kind of going in the direction of seeing if they can find sponsorship to do this, or however. But again, it's kind of a personal, your choice. If you want it done, you pay for it, and then go from there with it. It's this ICOR group. It cost the Crete $168,000 to do 1,200 people, test 1,200 people. They have a population of 3,500, so it's a third of the population that was tested. What's that statistics going to prove? They had 89% tested positive, like 25.
89% had antibodies,
Yeah.
Again.
whether it be from being vaccinated or from actually having COVID. It was 89%.
Yeah, I read a news story about that in the Creek, so.
Yeah.
So
I watched the video presentation today.
with this ICOR group or
Yeah.
with the, okay, so the chamber is looking at it then, Mr. Mayor, is that would be a
It
comment?
hasn't come up yet. We were supposed to have a meeting here this next week, but Brandy is sick, so we're postponed until she can get her feedback underneath her. But yeah, no, it was on Facebook today, actually. Somebody asked me to be involved in it, so I did. I watched it. It's informative. I don't know, and I don't know what to say. I don't know what it's going to gain by doing it. Myself personally, I mean, I understand if you've had if you've had COVID before, or if you've been vaccinated, the chances of getting it are less. But the Zycor thing, it's interesting. It, is a totally different way of looking at it for myself. So I don't know what their end goal is for sure though.
Okay.
Council, you got your antibody testing.
So because I'm dumb in that regard, would it be something that a person would maybe get tested more than once? So obviously, like maybe get tested and then you get tested
The
again.
level will change, I guess.
3
how
years,
recent
3
your
months or
infection
6
is.
months. So I guess with Chambers being involved, I'm wondering if they got involved because it was a business opportunity for a private group or a private group of people to bring this in and perform the tests and make money.
Yeah.
Thinking. But again, if it's more than one test, great, but once you've tested everyone, if it's a one and done, then it's
Your
not a
antibodies go
sustainable
down.
business,
Yeah.
so.
Councilor Crowe, I didn't get to watch it all. So what is the end goal of ICOR? Like, what is the purpose of
I think their
it?
goal is to build a team to almost lobby AHS that you get some kind of credit for your antibody
Okay,
immunity.
and that's kind of what
I'm
I
guessing
get.
is their goal.
Well, and
but
that's
there's-
kind of what I gathered. I didn't honestly, I was busy working, so it was watch a few minutes and then run off and do something else and watch a few minutes. And that's kind of what I gathered that it was. The guy from ICOR that come on after about 7 or 8 minutes. Basically, that's kind of like it was from what I gathered, it was a lobby thing is what it was. And they kind of, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, they lost a little bit of credibility as they used the whistle stop and mirror as a backdrop. So that kind of took a little bit of the wind out of the sail for me because I didn't think that was the appropriate.
Location.
Yeah.
Inclusive location.
Well, and I watched it too because I had a taxpayer phone me and wanted to know why his community wouldn't get involved in this. So I watched the thing. The first thing was only a minute and some long. And the guy's wearing a Rebel t-shirt and he's using the whistle stop as a backdrop. It's mostly Facebook stuff. And I don't know, I started watching everything, but it didn't long get to lose interest in it.
No, it's not, like I said, I know Brandy has looked at it a little bit, Fred, and how far she's gone with it yet, I haven't
Yeah.
talked to her, so.
Yeah, I talked to her today about probably an hour.
Okay.
And like I say, she doesn't know which way she's gonna be going with it. Like, it's gotta go to the board.
Well,
and
she'll bring it
everything.
back to us, yeah, exactly.
And like, I wasn't really asking for any support. I just kind of wanted somebody that would take it and continue on with it and do some investigating and find out just exactly how the other communities were doing it, who was paying and so on.
Medical and political, we've already discovered how horrible that is, but when there's a hidden agenda like a backdrop, we just,
Well, that's what
Well, and the
I was.
ICOR is a private thing, like all they're doing,
Provide
they're
the
not
service.
propaganda, right? It's a medical thing, and all it is they do an antibody test. They send an email every week comparing vaccinated and non-vaccinated, and they run these tests and just.
if you're gonna do
overall
that, you don't
immunity.
have a flag in the background. That's,
I've walked into their building, and there's no flags there with the company.
No,
You
we're
can
ICOR.
pick and choose what their
Yeah.
marketing video you look at.
Okay, well, maybe the chamber will follow up with something.
Yeah.
And
Hey, Councilor.
I did extremely well for the first 2 weeks, then I got knocked out with the flu and almost killed me. So I lost a few weeks in there, but I did not miss a meeting. I attended, even though people go, are you okay? And I'd start to fade off a few times. We had the library board, Acadia Foundation, and I'm on the library policy committee. So we're working on a few things there. It's very productive. And then January, February, I'm swamped. So I'm looking forward to that. That's it. Any questions? for me?
Anything to do with the Acadia Foundation?
Uh-oh. Oof, it's a
You
tough.
asked.
Yeah, it's a tough. I'm struggling a little bit because I'm not used to being in a boardroom that has absolutely not one iota of compassion for employees, their well-being, their mental wellness, their nothing. If they were all on contract, they could all be fired tomorrow. That's what they're doing. They're not hiring people anymore. They're just putting everyone on contract. So no one gets health benefits, vacation benefits of any kind whatsoever, and they love it. And to me, I was shocked because if you're losing a large amount of staff every year, it's because you have a toxic environment and something needs to fix. And the look I got did not go down well. So I won't be saying that again. In the meantime, they go through a tremendous amount of employees because now they only hire contractors. It's easier to fire them. And I'm very concerned about that. However, the biggest concern they have is their occupancy rate is 68%, which is the lowest it's been in forever. And it just keeps dropping, mostly because of the pandemic, the restrictions to try and get in. I know I had to move my mom in during the pandemic, and my daughter and I had to move all the furniture. No one was allowed to help us. That's ridiculous, but that was the rule, with the masks on and gloves and the whole thing. So I know it's had an impact, but they're very keen on keeping everyone local. And I was concerned by the definition of local. To me, if you live in Alberta, you have the right to go to any facility you want. They prefer people from the area. So I'm going to work on them. That's my plan. Good people, just.
If it makes you feel any better, Councilor Murphy, I was on the same foundation in Elk Point,
Yes.
and we had the same issues 30 years ago.
Oh, don't do that.
Sorry.
No, I have to have hope. There
Yes.
has to be hope.
I have a question, Councillor Murphy. They were, Councillor Stickle had mentioned a while back, a couple of years ago.
Oh, yes, he was on it before me. That's right.
That they were starting to look at using one floor to have kind of like extended care, where there was,
Yes.
they were going to modify it.
Yes,
or
to different levels of care and
Yeah.
service, which is fantastic, because what happens to my mother would be a great case for that. Though she's in the lodge, as long as we don't do any testing, she's fine. But any testing in that score goes below a certain amount, then she'd have to be moved to long-term care. She's doing well. She's thriving in the lodge. But their rule is so clear. You fall, you're out. You call 911 3 times in 1 week, you're out. So there's very strict rules. But if they had a second, a level a little bit higher that had nursing care and some access, but not long-term care level. And they are working very hard on that. And that was a good part of the meeting. Just as long as they don't talk about staff, then we're good. But
So
yes, they're working
So
on
it
it.
still is. in the works. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah.
It's, everything got held up because of the
COVID.
pandemic.
Okay, thank you.
Through the clinic board, Jay Slemp is he sits on quite a few committees. The Acadia Foundation, I think it is in Oyen.
Yeah, he's with me in that meeting, in the
Yeah.
meetings. It's Oyen and
Concert.
concert and here. So
Anyways, they are looking at building a dementia wing in their long-term care or in their
in the lodge.
lodge, because all these lodges were designed with such a big general area, you know, like a meeting area or such, that it's not utilized. And so they're figuring that they can take and develop that into a dementia area where those people that have dementia are kept in a group amongst themselves, you know, sort of thing. And he says that if Oyen gets it going as a
Pilot.
Template,
Oh, yeah.
prototype, yeah.
And,
you know,
and they have,
then
and they're
the
actually
rest
working
will
on
follow, because everybody's, the
Same.
vacancy is, you know, it's got high. It's
it.
just,
So the vacancy is really, really bad right now, but yes, if they took one of the wings, took everyone off the third floor, moved them all second and first, use the third floor as a locked ward.
Yeah.
Not to the level of the long-term care, but so many may wander, but are completely functional within their area. They get confused very quickly. You're talking 2 to 5 years of more time in a home environment as opposed to a hospital. That, I can assure you, my mother's longevity is related to her being in that lodge. Their service is incredible, and the staff are amazing, the ones that are left.
Counselor Olson.
Was the only thing to add, the facility tour. There was also a meeting for Palliser Regional Municipal Services today, a short notice meeting with the subdivision appeal board tomorrow. And there's no members able to sit through that appeal due to some members sitting on the first appeal for it, or they worked for the municipality that were involved in the appeal, or emergency surgery that came up. So over Christmas, they had trained another 11 members. So we had to have a 4.5-minute meeting just to appoint all those members that were trained to that subdivision appeal board to get them on there. The appeal tomorrow. But that's been the only thing with Palliser. We have our org meeting next week. Finally to get organized there and move forward with it, but that's all. Pardon?
The subdivision appeal board you said you had to redo?
I have no idea what the appeal is.
Oh.
No, it's just the board members, there was nobody available. I think the one member that was available had some emergency
Yeah, we sat
surgery
on
to
the
deal with.
first
So
reading of it. The appeal.
Yeah.
And then so.
So this is a subdivision that's been created and they're appealing the decision that was made?
Not necessarily a subdivision.
Okay.
Yeah, not
It's
necessarily.
there's two, there's subdivision and development appeal board.
Okay.
So
Okay, thank
it can be not your traditional subdivision. It
Right.
can be a development issue that has gone wrong in some people's eyes. And Counselor Campion is a trained SDAB member, as is Todd Wallace and myself.
I've
from the
sat on
community.
2 of the appeals.
Did you?
yeah, and so some of the rules of if you set first appeal, this is another one coming through of the same issue, you can't sit on the second.
Well,
And you
the
can't
first
be
one was-
related to the people involved in the complaint and things like
That's
that.
a
So
hand.
it crossed everybody out except for one that suddenly couldn't make it. So
Yeah, the first one was maintenance in County of Plainfield, and then the last one was our buddies Brooks Asphalt wanted to put an asphalt plant into Rosedale. And there was people appealed that. So it came to us, and I've sat on 2 of them now.
all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. Counselor Warwick, he didn't present. Counselor Warwick, he didn't
Yes.
submit.
Pardon? The only other thing I might add is to what Counselor Bowden mentioned. There is a board boot camp. Meridian Futures is offering it. It is 3 different nights. It's on February 1st, 3rd, and 7th from 5 to 7 p.m. with a small fee of $50 each. So if anybody's looking for some extra training, this might be the one for you. It goes through jobs and duties of and members, job duties and member roles, how to have better meetings, strategic planning, the financial picture. It talks about the governance and then next steps. So Meridian Futures, that was another one they really wanted us to try to promote. The only other thing that I'll just mention too is I also, along with the previous mayor and my family, had an opportunity to have a meeting with our MP Keurig as well. And we had some really interesting dialogue over the 3 hours that we spent with him on the January 7th in the afternoon. Even my daughter had an opportunity to talk to him about the cost of housing and how that is affecting the younger demographic and what it will look like in the future. And he spoke very elegantly and gave her some good words of encouragement and support and some enlightenment into, some of the things that they're doing in some of those areas.
most of our other conversations that we had with him had everything to do with government, pros, cons, issues, the highs and lows. He is a very knowledgeable young man. That was the first time I had met him in person. And I actually really valued the conversation and the support that he gives to individuals and small remote rural communities like us. Outside of that, I have nothing more to report.
We have a motion to accept reports as presented. We got that ready to detail the vote, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, all in favor? Councilor Warwick, all in favor? Thank you. 12 correspondence items. Has everyone had a chance to look through the different correspondence items? Motion to accept correspondence items 12-01 to 12-07 for information.
Sure, I'll give you that.
Councilor Olson,
So just wanted to highlight two of those, Mr. Mayor. So the Hanna SPCA, as you're aware, they have resurrected under new leadership and a new group. I did talk to their president last week when he was contacting me about getting this letter in the package. I have indicated to him that once they have their plan of attack together and budget together and how they're going to move forward, that we need to see him before council. And if there is a financial request from the SPCA, then that's the time to bring that forward. I told him sooner than later, because at the end of the day, I know finances are always a challenge. But at the end of the day, I didn't want this new group to get started and immediately find themselves drowning in not having money. So if they want support from council, they'll need to come to council. They'll need to present why they need that support, how much they need, and why, and the opportunity for council to make a decision on whether they are prepared to support the SPCA financially and to what extent. So hopefully we can do that at the February meeting, but I've asked Trevor, told him, it's important to do that and move forward. I know their operating business right now is quiet. I think when I talked to Trevor last week, I think he said they only had 2 cats, and I think they were fostering a dog. So, but they still have their overhead costs in terms of rent, utilities, all those other things that are going to be there, whether they have 50 animals in there or 2. So I did want to let you know that I have encouraged him to move forward and to bring it to council. The last one is the Economic Development for Elected Officials seminar. So if anybody is interested in registering for that, please let me know. There is no cost. It will be held here in February 2nd from 9 till 3:30 at the community center. Lunch will be provided. PEP and Harvest Sky are covering the costs and managing that event.
I already registered.
So, okay, that's good to know.
I think I did.
You can register yourself, or if you're having challenge, like the link is on that email. So feel free to register yourself, or if you want me to register, just let me know and I'll register you. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. It's a good opportunity. It's in our community. There's no cost. And the other thing is they want to know sooner. So if just for their planning purposes, so that they're not scrambling at the last minute with 3 people or 45 people. They want to kind of get their numbers down soon. So you want me to sign you up, Councilor Campion?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay,
You might as well do this.
I'm not sure if I have one.
okay, so Campion will
They had a seminar.
have to speak louder.
They had a seminar that I did sign up on, and my connection just didn't work at all. So
Okay. So, yeah, and yourself,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, okay?
back to the SPCA one, just briefly.
Yeah.
CEO Mill and I had a conversation about some of the challenges they have, and the building they're in, they're renting. And so their thoughts about moving to a different building, a different location seemed pretty easy to me. And then Counselor Neil, as he quite often does, straightens me out and points me in the right direction. It's not as easy as just putting up another building and them moving. The SPCA falls under, what did you,
Well, the challenge we have right now with the SPCA, with the land use bylaw, again, is there's no definition of the services that the SPCA does in the land use bylaw. So there is for a small animal care and there is a vet service, but nothing that fits what they do. So then when you're looking at land use districts, there's either permitted uses or discretionary uses. And if they're discretionary uses, they come before MPC for approval. So it's nothing's insurmountable. At the end of the day, activities and definitions can be added to a land use bylaw to address it. It takes time to go through that process. I think they got in at the right time up there, and no one really questioned it because it was the vet's office. It was a nice fit. So that my preference, I think the facility may need some work, and whether they're paying the right amount of money or not is not for me to determine, but I do believe it's a good facility for what they want to do. So that'll be part of the discussion when Trevor comes here, is whether they're looking. I've told Trevor, if you find an alternative location that you think will work, let me know and we'll see what steps we have to do to move forward. But we have to be very careful, because you just don't take an SPCA type structure and drop it in a vacant house in a residential area. So it kind of restricts a lot of the areas where you could move, but certainly even if I look on Main Street, whether the old pet store would be a fit. Again, that building needs a lot of work, whether that's it, but it might fit better in those areas, and we can work the land use bylaw if MPC agrees to make those changes. But it's not just as simple as finding a vacant house or vacant property and saying, oh, I want that one. But we'll work through them. I think I believe the building is a good building. It might need some work, but I think it's ideally suited for what they want to do. So
Seymour is better.
That being said, with the SPCA, on a personal note, I have decided to donate my golden locks to their cause. When we get $3,000 raised up, we will, I will join Mr. Nils' group of shining.
well, we're a little long though.
Yeah, so yeah, we're taking some pledges down to the shop, and yeah, when that $3,000 is hit, I will shave it off, and a good cause, I think. So
Are you gonna let anybody shave you, or is it gonna be?
the highest donor,
Highest donor gets to
yeah,
shave.
highest donor gets a shave. Yeah,
Online.
yeah.
Video, yeah.
Oh, definitely. My mother-in-law, I did this once before for cancer. We raised $8,200. And my mother-in-law, they had taken, well, I don't know if you guys remember, but Dennis Berry had dyed his goatee and beard pink. So Marvin Carg was generous enough to get me a perm, a dye job, and a bleach. So I spent 9 hours in a chair, so I know what the women go through now. And I had a pink afro. So when they were trimming it out, they took the top section off, and my mother-in-law made comment, for $1,500 if he leaves it like that for a week. So I agreed to it.
So you had the Krusty the Clown one?
I did.
Oh,
And
wow.
then my mother-in-law just handed a check over for $1,500, and she walked away from it. So yeah, no, I will go shiny. I'm happy I didn't happy last week with my goals, but yeah. So it's one of those things that I think is good idea, and it's good fun. So yes, Dave, if you'd like to do it publicly, we can do it anywhere you want. The four-way stop on Main Street would be fine, dead center.
Be awesome.
Oh, I'd have to get the speaker.
We don't put any salt there, so. Okay, where am I at? Number 12. Good to go to the letters.
We voted on number 12, did
We
we?
voted on number 12, I believe, so
No,
maybe
not
not.
yet.
All in favor of accepting correspondence, carried. I guess that brings it to my favorite time, closed session. Do we have anything?
We have
for
no closed session, no.
Watch this. I move for adjournment.